Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up, everybody? This is Tony Vinchelle with the Stronger You Fitness, ASU Fit, and the Becoming a Stronger You movement. So, sorry about that first webinar. It was my first time using Webinar Jam, and so I wasn't aware of all the particulars and all of that other kind of stuff. But either way, I got it going, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So, title of this webinar: Balancing Motherhood, Career, and Your Fitness and Nutrition Lifestyle. So just to kind of give you an idea of how I understand where you're coming from, or why I understand where you're coming from. So I am a mom. I have 4 kids. I also run a personal training and nutrition coaching business, and that's what I do full time. So I totally understand what it means. In addition to all of that, I'm also a competitive bodybuilder. I compete in figure and looking to move into competing in physique later on, maybe this year. If not this year, then potentially next year. So I totally understand where you are coming from when you say things like, I feel like I can't get my schedule together. I feel like I'm drowning in all of this water. That is my responsibility in addition to my fitness and my fitness lifestyle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you some tips and some information and some things that I have done that actually helped me schedule everything out. Now, I don't have everything perfect. And I don't think anybody's going to be 100% perfect, but what I do is I do the best that I can with what I have. And so hopefully with the information that I'm going to give you tonight, you'll be able to take some of these tips and do the best that you can with what you have. So let's go ahead and get started. So before we can even talk about balancing and scheduling and all of that other kind of stuff, there are a few foundational concepts that you need to have a really good understanding of, and some things that you need to just go ahead and be okay with. Okay, so number one, if you are balancing motherhood, career, whether it's a business or a professional career that you have, in addition to your fitness and nutrition lifestyle, there's a couple of things you're going to have to understand. Number one, it is going to be important that you remain consistent. So once you have all of these tips that I'm going to give you today, you can pick and choose which ones you want to use and which ones are going to work for you. But whatever system you set up for yourself, you have to be consistent, because being a mom, especially if you've got kids, if your kids are active, if they're in sports, you're coming from work to practice, to home, to dinner, to all of these other things. And so you don't really have a lot of room in a lot of situations to step outside of your routine. So it's going to be important that you remain consistent. The other thing you need to understand is that this is going to take a lot of patience. Okay. When we're juggling all of these responsibilities, it's important to understand that your goals and your progress may not be as fast as the person who is not juggling all of these responsibilities. And I think one of the big issues is that in this society, everything is microwave popcorn. I want it now. I want it now. I want it now. I want to be fit now. I want to be fit now. I want to be fit now. And nobody understands. Nobody is willing to be patient anymore. So understand that if you are juggling all of these different responsibilities, you're going to have to be patient with your progress, and you're going to have to be patient with yourself. Now, being able to balance all of these, again, this is something that is going to be evolving for you over time as you gain new responsibilities, as your family starts to expand, or as your family starts to do new things, or as you start to do new things with your fitness and nutrition. And so this is going to take a lot of planning. Planning. If you don't have a plan, you will fail. And you won't fail because you're not capable. You won't fail because you don't have the resources. You will fail because you will become overwhelmed, and eventually you will quit. And we're going to talk a little bit later about planning. By the way, I'm looking at my notes. So if I'm looking away from the computer, just understand that that's what I'm doing here. This next foundational concept is extremely, extremely, extremely important. And for those of you who know me, you probably already know what I'm getting ready to say. For those of you who don't know me, I am a bit hardcore. So I'm not disrespectful or loud or in your face or anything like that, but I am pretty hardcore. And in a lot of situations, I understand that there is some gray area, but there are a lot of things in life that are just black or white. You either do or you do not. There is no try in between. Hopefully, that makes sense. So the next point that I'm going to make is that you have to let go of all of the excuses. What do I mean by that? Some of the things that we're going to discuss here, or that I'm going to discuss with you. Hey there to the one viewer who's on here. I can't see you. Or if you are here, type something there and say, hey, so that I can see you there. So we're going to, some of the tips that I'm going to give you today will fit for you. And some of the tips that I'm going to give you today will not fit for you. There's absolutely no way that I can discuss every single individual situation. This is one of those situations where you have to take what you can and do the best with what it is you can. Let me give you an example of this. When I was in college, I worked as a writing tutor for a little while. And all of the writing tutors were assigned to a specific English classroom. And I remember sitting down with a young lady, going over some of her assignments and just talking to her about, whether or not she was going to be able to turn assignments in and things of that nature. And so we start having this conversation, and she was a mother as well. And so, I'm conversing with her, and I'm trying to, or at least in my mind, I thought I was trying to relate to her. But here's how the conversation went. She's like, yeah, it's really hard, especially being a mom. I've got 2 kids. And I was like, yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. I've got 4 kids, and I totally understand where you're coming from. And she was like, well, I work part-time. And I was like, yeah, I work full-time, and I actually work 2 jobs. So, I totally get it. And she was like, and I'm in school part-time. And I'm like, wow, you have it so much better than me, because I'm in school full-time. And so she looks at me and she was like, so you got kids? And I was like, yes. And she was like, so you work? I said, yes, I work 2 jobs full time, actually over full time. At that time, I was working between both of my jobs, I was working 50 hours a week. And she was like, and you're in school full time? And I said, yes. And then she goes, well, do you work days or nights? And I said, well, typically I work during the day. Hey, Julie. It says, I'm on mobile, so I can't chat and stream at the same time, but I'm watching because I'm replacing motherhood with college. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much for jumping on. So, she goes, so do you work days or nights? I said, well, I typically, work days because I like to be at home at night. But I get off work pretty late in the evening. And she goes, oh, well, see, that's where you and me are different. It's because I work nights. And so finally, I looked at her and I was like, dude, do you want this shit to work or not? And she was like, what? I was like, do you want this shit to work or not? Because every time I give you a suggestion, every time I say something, every time I offer you something, and there was a whole lot more in the conversation in between that I didn't mention. I was like, every time I offer you something, you come back with the reason why it cannot work. Right? So it's one of those situations where you either want this thing to work or you don't. So I'm going to give you a lot of suggestions here. I understand that I cannot speak to every single individual situation, but it's going to be important that you not sit here and say, well, you got 4 kids, but I've got 5. Well, you run a business, so that means that you have more time, which actually is not the case. A lot of times we have a lot less time than people who work regular 9-to-5 jobs. So I just wanted to go ahead and throw that out there. You are going to have to let go of the excuses. The bottom line is there are always going to be things that come up, whether it's your kids, whether it's school, whether it's your boss making you pick up an extra shift, whether it's you dropping $100 on the ground out of your wallet and you thought that you had it and didn't realize that you lost it. There's always going to be something that comes up. And at the end of the day, you have got to take on the mentality that I am going to do the best that I can with what I have. You may not necessarily have the same amount of money that somebody else has. You may not necessarily have the same amount of time that somebody has. But the bottom line is it is your responsibility for you to do the best you can with what it is that you have. Okay. Hopefully you follow me with that. The next foundational concept or foundational piece that you're going to have to take into consideration is that this is going to take commitment. Once you sit down and plan and you put together your schedule and you say, you know, this is family time and this is workout time and this is cooking time and this is work time, you have got to be committed to that schedule. And I'm going to talk a little bit later on in our conversation about what I mean by that and why that is so important. And the last piece of this is that you're going to have to be honest with yourself. I'm going to say that again. You're going to have to be honest with yourself. Typically, when people are trying to, or when women, men as well, but we're talking about moms now, when women are trying to balance all of these things, one of the biggest issues, or two of the biggest issues that come up, are time and money. And people fall in one of four categories. Either you have no time and no money, either you have no money but you have time, or you have no time but you have money, or you have time and you have money. It's important that you sit down and take a real evaluation of where you are in those categories. Because sometimes we say we don't have time. Oh, I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. But if I were to follow you around all day with a hidden camera, I could probably pull out, 2 to 3 hours throughout the day where you're doing bullshit. So for example, if you know that you need to plan your meals, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but I'm getting ahead of myself so that I can come back. If you know that you need to plan your meals, but you come home from work and say, oh God, I need to relax. And, I'm going to sit down and watch this 2-hour marathon of Scandal. And then you have a conversation with somebody the next day and you say, oh my God, you know what? I was just so tired. I could not get anything done. Well, actually, you did get something done. You sat down and you watched Scandal for 2 hours. It's the way that you prioritize your time, and it's the way that you prioritize your money. So you definitely have to be honest with yourself and where you are. So let's start talking about doing this balancing act. Let's start talking about doing this, how to balance all of this stuff. So the first thing you need to do is you need to sit down and you need to really and truly analyze where all of your time is going. And there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can make a journal entry every evening or every afternoon that says, this is what I did with my time. If you don't feel like writing, one of the things that I like to do is I like to pull out my cell phone and I will make video notes to myself. So I will start a video and say, hey, what's up? So today, I woke up at 4 o'clock. I did this, and this, and basically outline my entire day in the video. However it is that you want to do it, whether you do it with video or whether you do it by writing a journal entry, or whether you log all of your activities into the calendar of your phone, take a week and do that. And get a look at where all of your time is going. Because I guarantee you, even for those of us who feel like we have just absolutely no time at all, if you sit down and you do an analysis of every single minute, every single hour of every single day for 7 days, you will find gaps of time where you have time to do different things. You have time to plan your meals. You have time to make your meals. You have time to watch a couple of YouTube videos on some workouts that you can do at home. You have the time. It's just about finding a way to maneuver your schedule so that you can get access to that time. If it makes sense. Now, once you identify all of the areas, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it like it is. Once you identify all of the areas where you're wasting time, i.e. pulling out your phone and scrolling through Instagram and scrolling through Pinterest and scrolling through Facebook all day or all night, or you come home from work and you pull out your phone and you're catching up on the latest news on Facebook or whatever the situation may be. Once you figure out where those gaps in time are, then the next thing you would want to do is get yourself a planner. Now, you could use the planner in your phone, but there is something that happens physiologically when you actually sit down and you write everything down. If you want to find some research articles on that, I always tell people go to PubMed, do a search. It's kind of like Google for scientific articles. You can find the research that shows that there's something different that happens with the connections in the brain when you actually sit down and write things down, because it makes you take responsibility for what it is that you're doing. So you can pull, this one is just a basic planner. I don't know if you can see this. This is one of those ones from like Walmart that you can get. I think this one is maybe $7 or $10 or something like that, but you might want to invest in one of those. One of what I have, actually what I use is a passion planner. It's because I like it, because it's a journal and it's got all kinds of cool stuff in it, but I like to use it. So anyway, what you need to do is get yourself a planner. Okay, it's okay to use the one in your phone, but you really need to take the time to grab pen, paper, get yourself a planner. Now, the passion planner is a bit more expensive. You don't necessarily have to make this investment, but you need to get something on pen and paper that you can actually use. And so what you're going to do is you're going to write down in your planner. You're going to start off with everything that you have to do. Now, mine is a little bit different. Mine is color coded, and it's got, because I'm just kind of anal like that. But you're going to start with all of the things that you absolutely have to do. If you know that the kids have to be dropped off by this time, then you put that in. You know that the kids have practice on these days at this time, then you go ahead and put that in. If you know that you have work or school or whatever it is, all of those hard set time frames, you go ahead and write those in. And then once those are written in, you'll be able to see, I don't have on this particular example, I don't have too many gaps, but as you can see, I've got, a few minutes right here and, a few minutes right here, some time right here, some time up here. You'll be able to see where those gaps are. And once you identify those gaps, then you can really start to put together your fitness and nutrition plan as part of your lifestyle. So hopefully everything I'm saying is making sense. I'm trying to get through this before midnight because I've got to do one per day and I don't want to get caught up with the time. But if you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Twitter at @AStrongerU. So that's A_Stronger, the letter U. And I'll be on Twitter for the next couple of days to answer any questions about any of this stuff today. So okay, so let's see. I talked about having the planner. So I'm going to go back to this whole idea of relaxation time. And I get it, right? I get it. We're moms. We cook, we clean, we work, we do all of these other kinds of things. But it's really important that you make sure that your relaxation time is actually relaxation time and not just time for you to waste time. What do I mean by that? So typically what I will do is, depending on the day, some days I can only take 10 minutes. Some days I can only take 15 minutes. Some days I can only take 30 minutes. But what I absolutely try not to do is get myself in a situation where I say, oh my God, you know what? I have worked so hard today, or I have worked so hard this week. I'm just going to sit here and relax. And then that 30 minutes turns into an hour, which turns into 2 hours, which turns into 3 hours of me literally doing nothing. And then things like being able to map out my nutrition or being able to make my meals and things of that nature, those things fall by the wayside because I feel as though I deserve that 4 hours. Now, don't get me wrong. Every now and then it's good just to have like a veg out day where you sit around and you just don't do anything, but it's not a good idea to make that a consistent part, right? So we've become accustomed to think that when I come home from work that I'm automatically entitled to this 2, 3, or 4 hour break because I've worked so hard, which is totally fine. But The problem is in that 2 to 3 to 4 hours, a lot of the things that you could get done are not going to get done. And then you go to bed and you wake up the next morning and you're frustrated because none of the things that you said you were going to do, or none of the things that you said that you needed to do, were done. And so many times when we feel like we're drowning in this thing, like, oh my God, I have a workout today. Oh my God, I have to plan my meals today. Oh crap, I got to take them to school. A lot of times this happens because we've wasted a lot of our time in the day before and we did not properly plan. Hopefully that makes sense, because I can't see too many of the comments now. I don't know what's going on with this thing, but it's all good. I'll be on Twitter. The other thing too is with your schedule. So with what I put in this planner right here, okay, if it's not in my planner, it does not get done, right? A lot of times as women, we have an issue with balancing all of these things because we don't know how to say no, right? You work from 10 to 7, Monday through Friday. And then on Tuesday night, somebody has a pop-up dinner that they want to do at 8 p.m., right? You know that you could go home and prepare your meals. You know that you can go home and give yourself a facial. You know you could go home and sit down and relax for 30 minutes before you do some more of your homework or before you help the kids with the homework. But because you feel like you deserve, I deserve to go out, then you say yes. And then what happens is you spend these 2 to 3 hours at this function. 9 times out of 10, you fall off of the plan that you had. You come home and it's fine. It's totally fine. But then the next day you're upset and you're frustrated because there were things that could have been done the day before that didn't get done because you had to go to that party, right? So let's see, still talking about planning. The last part of that is this. So one of the things that I do is, and this can be any day that you actually have the time. For me, it's Sunday. I take one day, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 15 minutes, depending on what I have. And on that day, at the same time, every single Sunday, I will sit down and I will plan out my week. And what I have realized is that when I do that, my week goes so much smoother. And what happens is I'm not reacting to everything that's been thrown at me, right? Because if you have not planned your week and you haven't taken the time to find out what it is that I have to do next week, what kind of time do I have? What meetings do I have? What activities do the kids have? What projects do the kids have that are due, right? If you have not taken the time to do all of that, then what happens is you're constantly reacting. You're constantly reacting because you didn't plan. So I would advise, for me, it's Sunday. For you, it might be Tuesday. For somebody else, it might be Thursday. But you take that one day and you sit down and you pull out your planner, okay, either this one or whichever one it is that you purchase. Plan out your day. Now, if you want to take items, because that's what I do. So I'll sit down and I'll write out my plan, and then I will take items. I will take that entire plan from my planner and I will put that in my cell phone so that I have it in 2 different places. And I set alarms. I set the little events notifications. I send all of those kinds of things. So if I know that I have a meeting at a particular address, or if I know that my kids have a martial arts tournament and it's going to be on the north side, I will write everything down in my planner. Then I will go in here into the planner in my phone and I will set those events with dates, times, and addresses so that when it's time for me to go and it's time for me to move around, I have all of that information in front of me. And then what happens now, because I have a plan and I have everything written out, every single morning when I get up, as part of my morning ritual, I can either pull out my planner or I can pull out my phone and I can take a look at what I have available for the day. Even if I don't memorize it all, I have an idea of what is on my plate for that day. And so when somebody calls me and they say, hey, you want to go do happy hour or you want to go do drinks, if I'm looking at the time frame and it's going to put me in a position where I'm rushing from one place to be in another place, to rush from that place to be in another place, then my answer is going to be no. But if you don't sit down and plan, and you don't know what's ahead of you, and you don't know what's due, and you don't know what your kids have due, because the other thing that I put in my planner as well as on my phone, is I put in all of their projects. So just like they get a syllabus for all of their classes, I get that same syllabus as well. So I know when their projects are due. I know when they have tests. I know when their homework is due. And I put all of that stuff in my phone. Right. And what I do is I'll set, like, if the kids have a project that's due, what's today? Today's June 7th. If they have a project that is due, July the 14th, then I will set a reminder for myself a week prior to their due date to check in with them to make sure that they're on pace to get their project done. Right. The other thing that we can do as moms is make sure that we teach our kids how to be responsible for their own work. We teach our kids how to be responsible for their own schedule. So I have this passion planner. All of my kids have a mini version of the passion planner. And so just like I'm responsible for sitting down and planning out my assignments and planning out my responsibilities and planning out my schedule, my kids have to sit down and plan out their schedule and plan out their homework and plan out their testing and plan out their projects so that everybody is all on the same page. And what I've done is I've taught my kids to be responsible for their own work, because as moms, we want to do so many things. We want to be right there with them when they're doing their homework all the time. We want to be right there with them when they're doing their projects all the time. But the problem with that is that, number one, you're not giving them the independence that they need to learn how to be responsible for themselves. And then that in and of itself takes a lot of time away from you. Right? So if I'm sitting here for 3 hours helping you work on your project, that means that I'm missing my workout. That means that I'm missing my meal plan. That means that I'm missing my meal preparation. That means that I'm probably missing a homework assignment myself. There's a million different things that I'm missing in that 3 hour time frame. And so what you do is you communicate with your kids, you communicate with your family and say, look, this is what my schedule looks like. These are the days that I work. These are the days that I work out. These are the days that I prepare my meals. I need everybody to be on the same page. Now, in order for this to work, I need you to make sure that you're responsible for your own schedule as well. Now, if you have younger kids like toddlers, that's not easy to do, right? Because a toddler is not going to sit down and write down their schedule. But you can still be responsible for that by making sure that you're writing down whatever their schedule is in your planner, and then syncing that to your phone. I know that was long, but hopefully that makes a lot of sense. So let's start talking about motherhood, right? So, I want to be fit. I want to look good. I want to eat well. I want to advance in my career. And I want to do this all at the same time while being an excellent mom, right? And I think one of the things that we need to do as moms is let go of this whole idea of the perfect parent. On Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, you have all of these people who are saying, well, if I was a parent, I would do X, Y, and Z, or my kids do this, and this. Well, you know what? If you're the perfect parent and you've never had anything go wrong, and you've never missed a date, and you've never missed an event, and you've never forgotten something, and you've never forgotten to pick up those markers from Walmart, we're good for fucking you. Okay. But that does not speak to the experience of the majority of us who are actually regular people. So for us regular people, as regular moms, communication is a huge component of making this thing work. It's a huge piece of being able to balance everything, right? So one of the things that we worry about as moms is, if I go work out, then that's time that I'm taking away from my kids. If I sit down and I'm cooking all of these meals for the week, then that's time that I'm taking away from my kids. And I think that we need to get away from this whole all or nothing mentality, this whole, let me not even say that, but I just think we need to get away from this whole all or nothing mentality. It's important that you sit down with your family, whoever your support system is. If you're a single mom, if you've got teenagers, if you've got a husband, if you've got people who help you out, or if you don't have anybody who helps you out. But it's important that you sit down and you communicate with them and you say, look, this is my schedule. On these days and these times, I have time for us to do this, right? So you go over your schedule. This is my work schedule. This is my fitness schedule. This is my meal planning schedule. For those of you who do your own meal planning, or if you're cooking your own meals and all of those other kinds of things. And then when you set time for your family, then you make sure that in that time you give them your undivided attention. So right now I live in a household where both of us have to work, right? And so, when we're both working, sometimes we're both working 10, 12 hours a day. When we're in those situations, the little time that we do have extra that we dedicate to the kids, they are given our full and undivided attention. Whether it's us sitting here watching movies, whether we're playing outside, whether we decide to go to a movie, whether we decide to hang out here at the house, the cell phones are off, the computers are off. Nothing is on except what we are using to interact with the kids. And so during that time, they have our undivided attention. Now, what that does is that helps them understand, yes, mommy has to work, and yes, mommy wants to be fit, and yes, mommy wants to work out, and yes, mommy needs her own time. But what I know as the kid is that when I need mommy, she's always there. When I absolutely need her, she's there, right? And when she spends time with me, I get her undivided attention. So communication is a huge part of that. Now, it's one thing to communicate your schedule. The other thing that I communicate, and some people may agree with this or some people may not, is I have certain times, I like to call them red zones. If I have a situation where, let's go back. So for example, when I go to the gym, I tell my kids, do not call me unless it is an absolute emergency. Whatever decisions you need to make, right? Hubby at home too. Whatever decisions y'all need to make, go ahead and make them. But if I am at the gym working out, or if I am in the garage working out, or if I am in my room doing an ab circuit, or whatever it is that I'm doing for my fitness, health, and wellness at that time, do not call me. Don't call me. Don't knock on the door. Don't barge in, because this is my time. And it's okay for me to communicate that, because they're already used to me giving them my undivided attention when we do have that family time. But that's something that you're going to have to put your foot down about. Okay? So let's see, there's a couple of points here I think I want to say for another webinar. So now let's start talking about trying to incorporate the fitness and nutrition into your routine. So again, like I said, people are going to fall in one of the four categories. Either you have no time and no money, you have, some time and no money, you have some money and no time, or you have money and you have time. Okay. If you're able to invest in a gym membership because you have the money and you have the time, then one of the things that I would suggest that you do is that you invest in a membership at a fitness facility that has a quality daycare center for your kids. And by quality daycare center, I don't just mean that they take care of the kids and the kids are safe. By quality daycare center, I mean that daycare center within the facility has activities, so your kid is not going to be bored, right? They play games, they do workouts, they color, they do homework. There's an entire curriculum or an entire program. Why is that important? Well, because while you're working out, you don't have to worry about feeling as though you're depriving your kids of any time, because they're getting activities, they're getting interaction, they're having lots of fun in that little daycare center. Okay. If you do not have the ability to get a membership, a gym membership, or if you cannot hire a personal trainer, or if you cannot pay for a workout plan, or if you, and you say, I'm not going to pay for a workout plan because I don't have an hour today. You know, Tony, when I look at my schedule, I literally just do that hour a day, 3 days a week or 5 days a week. I literally don't have it. If that is your situation, then the 6-minute workout is going to be your best friend. Now, I'm going to say that, and at the same time, I'm going to say, remember that if we're balancing all of these things, we also have to understand that the speed at which we accomplish our fitness and wellness goals may not be the same as the speed of the person who does not have to balance all of these responsibilities. But at the end of the day, it is your responsibility to do the best you can with what you have. So if you absolutely don't have the money for a membership, you absolutely do not have that 1 hour, or when you do spend that 1 hour, you've got 109 things that are not being done and it's freaking you out and you're falling behind schedule and all of these other kinds of things, then the 6-minute workout is going to be your best friend. Now, how do you do a 6-minute workout? It's very simple. You pick 3 of your favorite body weight exercises. You don't even need weights or resistance bands or anything. If you have that kind of stuff, then it's really, really cool. But if you don't have it, you don't need it. Pick 3 exercises that you really like, run them back to back for 30 seconds each, and then run that circuit 4 times. That's 6 minutes. If you want to find some research on the effectiveness of a 6-minute workout as it pertains to weight loss, again, you can find those same articles on PubMed. It does work. It is real. But here's the thing. It's got to be 6 minutes of your best effort. So again, as moms, if you are balancing all of these different things and you're like, oh my God, I just absolutely cannot stick to a 1 hour routine. I can't even give you 30 minutes 3 times a day. I don't have it. I sat down, I pulled out my planner, I wrote everything down. And when I write everything down, there are absolutely no white spaces, right? And I've been completely honest with myself. This is the situation. If that is the case, then you need to consider doing the 6-minute workout. Now, why does this work? Number one, because I always believe that doing something is better than doing nothing. And you can carve 6 minutes at any point in time out of your day. It doesn't require any equipment. All it requires is your effort. The other thing that I like about the 6-minute workout is that it's scalable. You can take it up. Right? So if you find yourself one day with an additional 6 minutes, let's say today you have 12 minutes, you can run that circuit 8 times, right? So basically you run the 6 minutes twice, right? If you have additional times, you can do 6, 12, 18. You can go as many times, 24, 30. You can take that up as many times as you need to. You can write as many of those 6-minute workouts as you need to so that you don't get bored. But again, remember, it is your responsibility to do the best that you can with what you have. And in those 6 minutes, it's got to be your full effort within those 6 minutes. And I'll do another video later on exactly how to construct the 6-minute workout. But again, bottom line is pick 3 of your favorite exercises. They can be body weight exercises. Run them full speed, 30 seconds each, 30, 30, 30. Run that whole circuit 4 times. And that gives you a 6-minute workout. Okay? And again, if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. Reach out to me on Twitter at @AStrongerYou. So here's another piece for those of you who do have a gym membership. And I see this all the time. And don't get me wrong, I'm not judging, because I have fallen victim to this all the time. If you have a gym membership, and you're working out on your own, or if you have a personal trainer, get into the gym, get your work done, and then get your ass out of the gym. Because too many times I see people they'll come in, they'll work with their trainer, or they'll work out by themselves, work out for 45 minutes to an hour, and then you spend another hour conversing with this person, and you guys are talking about, what did you do last night? And then you're conversing with this person, talking about the new class that's getting ready to start. And then you're walking around and you're looking for somebody else to talk to. And basically what you're doing is you're wasting time. If you're already balancing all of these responsibilities and you already feel like you're drowning, you already feel like you don't have enough time, then help me understand how you have time to continue to socialize with people in the gym when your workout is over. And that's not just with your workout, that's with all of your tasks. It's important that when you're trying to balance all of these responsibilities, that you become so diligent about your schedule. If the kids have practice from 4 to 6, then at 6 o'clock, you put your kids in the car and you leave. You don't necessarily, you're not always going to have time to converse with the soccer mom. You're not always going to have time to spend extra time with the coach. You're not always going to have time for your kids to run around and play at the end of practice. Again, this information is for people who feel, or for women who feel like they are becoming overwhelmed with adding a fitness and wellness lifestyle in addition to motherhood and in addition to a career. And if you feel like you're overwhelmed, then what you need is structure, and what you need to do is become very diligent with your schedule. So when I write my schedule out, and that's one of the things that I notice, on the weeks where I may miss it because I decide to watch, now see, I don't watch Scandal, but see, I watch Phineas and Ferb. That's my quote unquote release. So on the Sundays where I say, you know what, I just think I'm going to sit here and watch cartoons, like I'll just do that plan and stuff. It's all good. I kind of already have an idea of my schedule. What happens is I notice that I waste a lot of time, as much as I have to do during the day. And a lot of times I have things that are coming back to back to back to back to back, but there are 10 minutes, 15 minutes, sometimes 30-minute time blocks where I'm wasting time having additional conversations. Right. But what I notice is that when I sit down and I plan everything, if I'm supposed to be working out from 6 to 7, then at 7 o'clock, I'm hauling ass up out of there. If the kids have practice from, I don't know, babe, what time is their martial arts practice on Wednesdays again? Is it 6? Oh, he's got his headphones in because he's watching, Law and Order. Well, whatever. If they have practice from 6 to 9, then my kids already understand that at 9 o'clock, you need to be in my car. So if practice ends at 9, at 9:05, you need to be in my car. So what I'm saying is, your time is valuable. You cannot get that time back. Do what you need to do and move on without wasting additional time. All right. Let's see. So here's another one. Here's another one. Take on what you can realistically take on. So here we are. Your mom, you got a career, you got kids, you're doing all this other kind of stuff. And all of a sudden you decide that you want to start working out, you want to start eating better. So what do you tell yourself? You know what? I'm going to work out for an hour a day when I get off work every day for 6 days a week, and I'm only going to take Sundays off. And then Sundays I'm going to spend all day cooking. And then what happens is you do that and you realize that you're absolutely exhausted. You can't get anything done after that. And then eventually you end up quitting because you put on too much. It makes more sense for you to say, you know what, I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk twice a week. And let me just start there. It makes more sense for you to do that and do something that is manageable than it does for you to create all of these huge obstacles by adding all of these new responsibilities and saying, you know what, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to work out 5 days a week, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. I'm going to work out 8 days a week, and there's only 7. And then you get overwhelmed and then nothing gets done. And then when nothing gets done, then you fall behind and then you become even more overwhelmed because you're already further behind than you were. Okay. So let's talk about nutrition. Let's talk about adding nutrition to this. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to those gaps of time. When you sat down and you wrote out your entire schedule, you're going to go back to those gaps of time and figure out how many of those gaps in time allow you to actually be at home. Where are your time gaps at home? Right? And here's the thing. So if you have the time and the money, then it just makes sense for you to hire somebody to cook for you. I mean, that's just the bottom line. If you have the time and the money, you can hire somebody to cook for you, or you can hire a meal prep service, or, you know, hire somebody to do it for you, right? Because if you can delegate that, then that's more time that you get to have. However, if you are not in that position, then there's a few things that you're going to have to go ahead and be comfortable with until you get into a position where things can change for you. Okay. So here are some of the things, or here's some of the things I'm going to suggest. Number one, go ahead and buy yourself a crock pot, right? If you have a family and you do not have a crock pot, you are doing yourself a disservice, because you can make one pot meals in your crock pot. And the thing with the crock pot is you can, on some meals, you can start them when you go to work and they can slow cook for so long and they'll be ready when you get home. I've done that a lot. I used to do it all the time, right? You can start a meal and then go help the kids with your homework. And all it requires is that you take all of your stuff, you season it, you dump it in the pot, put the top over the pot, and just let it cook. Okay? Simple meals are going to be your best friend. Now I'm going to say something, and a lot of people are not going to agree with this, and this is okay. But this what I'm saying here, again, this is for people who are lacking time and who also says I'm going to start. Oh, this is Julie. She says, I'm going to start scheduling ASAP because watching this video make me realize I should have set time for laundry. I keep telling myself that the pile isn't so bad, but it's going to one day become a mountain, and it'll take me 2 days to clean when I could have did some laundry while the pile was small. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so that goes back to that whole scheduling piece that we were talking about. But back to what I was saying with regard to the simple meals. So frozen veggies are going to be your best friend. I understand that they're not the best, but again, I'm talking about somebody who does, I'm presenting worst case scenario. So if your scenario is a little bit better, then you can do a little bit better. But right now I'm creating, again, worst case scenario. So this is mom who is totally overwhelmed. You've got so many responsibilities. You got so many things going on. And on top of that, you also don't have a lot of money. Okay. Frozen vegetables are going to be your best friend. I understand they're not the greatest. What you can do is take them out of the bag, get some vinegar and some water, wash your vegetables before you cook them. Does that eliminate absolutely everything? No, but it makes it a little bit better than it was before you originally took it out of the bag. And they're easier to cook. Right? And the thing that I like about frozen vegetables, and this is just me, now I do things a little bit differently, but the thing that I like about frozen vegetables is that if I prepare my meals the night before, I can take some frozen vegetables and I can literally just put them in my meal container. I don't even have to cook them. Why? Because tomorrow when I take it to work with me, I'm going to have to pop it in the microwave anyway. So it's going to get cooked anyway. So these are just some of the small things that can save you some time. Now, lentils, rotisserie chickens, sweet potatoes, frozen veggies, cucumbers. These are going to be your best friends. Why? Because they cook easily. Of course, the rotisserie chicken is already cooked. They can be seasoned in so many different ways. And so you can create so many different kinds of meals just by using those things. Like one of the things that I do from time to time is I'll cook a big, huge batch of lentils. I'll cook a big, huge batch of lentils, and then I'll freeze some of them. And then we may have lentil nachos. We may have lentils over rice. We may have lentils over pasta. We may have lentils and greens. But there's so many different things that you can do with that. And it's, it's a very nutrient dense food and all those other kind of things. There's so many different things that you can do with that. Now, in that same breath, what I'm going to say is, as part of this transition, while you're learning to balance everything, is you're going to have to learn to be okay with having some of the same meals over and over and over again. I'm going to say that again. Because a lot of times we become overwhelmed because we try to do too much. Sometimes we become overwhelmed because we try to do too much. If you are a mom, career, and you're incorporating fitness and wellness, you may not always be able to make a gourmet meal every single night, or every single day, or every single week for that matter. You may not be able to do that. And you need to learn and understand that and learn to be okay with that. So some of those staples that I talked about, the rotisserie chicken, the lentils, the sweet potatoes, the cucumbers, frozen vegetables, some rice, you can take that kind of stuff and you can rotate it in so many different ways and create so many different meals that are going to be healthy for your family. And you may have to eat some of the same stuff a lot, over and over and over again. But again, you're doing the best that you can with what it is that you have. And when you're looking at your family, I mean, your kids are entitled to a decent meal. They're not entitled to a gourmet meal every single night, right? Because if you want them to have a gourmet meal every single night and you want to be able to balance all of this other kind of stuff, then that means that you would be able to pay somebody. And if you can pay somebody to provide that service for you, then that makes it even better for you, because that's time that you get to have that you can allot to doing something else. But if you do not have the money to do that, right? Because here's the thing, there's got to be some kind of balance. Okay. If you have money and no time, then you can always pay somebody to do the things that you don't have time to do. And the only thing that requires is for you not to be cheap. But if you don't have a lot of money, then what happens is you have to find the time, because you got to find balance some kind of way, right? And so those are some staples that you can keep in your house. And of course, apples, oranges, things like that, just those basic fruits, right? Buying fruits that keep well. Again, if you don't always have a lot of time and you're already overwhelmed, why are you buying strawberries every time you go to the grocery store? They're nice and they're good to have, but guess what? If you don't eat them in 2 days, they go bad, right? If you already know that you don't necessarily have time to spend hours in the kitchen every single day, then why are you always buying the freshest of the fresh vegetables? I said that. And a lot of people are not going to agree with that. Well, you should always cook fresh vegetables. You should. But understand that when you buy fresh vegetables and you put them in the refrigerator, if you're not eating them, they're going to be going bad. So you do the best you can with what you have. And for my clients, I would tell them, I would rather you go out and buy some frozen vegetables and get some of these staples and have the same thing over and over and over again, rather than continue to spend money on fresh vegetables and then you can't cook it. And then because you can't cook it, because you don't have the time, then what happens is you go out and you eat a whole bunch of stuff that you should not be eating. Make sense? Hopefully it does. Now, if you have older children, if you have older kids, then teach your kids how to cook. I cannot tell you how much of a relief that has been for me teaching my kids how to cook. I cannot tell you how much of a relief that's been for me. Because again, it allows me the opportunity to delegate the cooking when I just have so much on my plate, right? So when I have a million things going on, and I want my kids to get a good, decent meal, and I don't want to go out and buy crap, then I send my kids to the kitchen and they go and they cook the meal. And I've taught my kids how to cook wholesome meals, and I've taught them how to put together wholesome meals and seasonings and all of those other kinds of things. All of my kids have been cooking since they were like 8 years old. And again, this is for people who have kids, you know, who are in that age range. But it's number one, it's fun, because when you get in the kitchen and everybody's cooking together, then that's another activity that the family can do. That's another way that you can use to spend time with your kids. And all it takes is your time. And you're doing something that you're going to have to do anyway, because everybody is going to have to eat anyway. Right? So it allows you to spend time with the kids. It allows you to use that as a family activity. But at the same time, when you're unable to make those meals, then you can delegate that to the kids. And you just make that understanding. You know, I mean, running a family is like running a business. Everybody has to play their role. Everybody has to contribute. Just because you're a kid, it does not mean that you get to sit on your ass all day and just watch me do all the providing, and you don't have to do anything, and you don't have to cook, and you don't have to take out the trash, and you don't have to clean, and you don't have to fold the laundry, and you don't have to do anything. That is not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Right? And the way we run things here is, I tell the kids all the time, this is a family and everybody plays a role. And in order for this to work, we've all got to make sure that we work together. Going back to that communication piece that I talked about at the beginning of this session. Okay. Now, the last thing that I'm going to say, and this is the last point that I'm going to make, is this. As part of this balancing act, you are going to have to be okay, Mom, with the fact that sometimes there are some things that are just not going to get done. Sometimes we do the laundry and the basket sits there for the entire week. All of my clothes, sometimes I go weeks at a time pulling my clothes out of a basket. And I'm okay with that. Because I've learned to spend my time on the things that are really, really, really important. If you don't fold that laundry, are you going to die? If you don't make your bed this morning, but you've made your bed every other day this week, are you going to die? Are you? Now, if you're going to die, then I would suggest, go ahead and do what it is that you got to do. But I'm pretty sure most of you will not die. There's always going to be laundry. There's always going to be dishes. There's always going to be vacuuming that needs to be done. There's always going to be the lawn. There's always going to be all of these different things that we need to do. But it is extremely important that you learn how to prioritize what it is that needs to be done. I could either take 2 hours and fold up that laundry, or I could take those same 2 hours and work an hour at the gym and come home and spend about 30 minutes preparing my meals for tomorrow. Because that's what's important to me. It's important to me that I merge my fitness, health, and wellness lifestyle with my responsibilities as being a mother and a career woman and a business owner and all of that. And so because those are my priorities, sometimes the laundry is going to sit in the basket. Sometimes my bed is not going to get made. Sometimes my floor is not going to be vacuumed until Friday. And so however it is that you're going to reconcile that for yourself, it's important that you become okay with the fact that there are some things that are just not going to get done. We don't always have to do everything all the time. I'm going to say that again. We don't always have to do everything all the time. Prioritize what is important, the things that you want to get done. If I haven't spent time with my kids this week, I'm not folding up the laundry. We're going to go outside and we're going to play. If I haven't spent time with my kids this week, No, I'm not vacuuming the floors right now. We're going to go ahead and go to the park. And when I make that decision, I make that decision knowing that, do I have a basket of clothes? Yes. I mean, do I need to make up my bed? Yes. Do I need to do 1, 2, 3, and 4? Yes. But are these things more important than me spending time with my kids right now? No. So I walk out, we go out, we do whatever it is that we're going to do. And then I just become okay with the fact that there are some things that are not going to get done. So anyway, I know that was a whole lot of information. I hope that it made sense. I hope that it was helpful. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me on Twitter. I'm actually starting to use Twitter a lot more now because I realize it's easier for me to answer people's questions because it's just easier for me to get in on that platform than it is on some of the other ones. So even if you leave a comment here on YouTube, I may or may not get to it. But it's easier for me to do it on Twitter. So my Twitter is A Stronger, the letter U, ASTRONGERU. That's my Twitter. So if you have any questions about any of the content that I went over on this webinar, go ahead and shoot me a question on my Twitter. This is the first video of 67 videos of 67 days of free content. So if you have any other suggestions, you can send those to me on Twitter as well. It is now 12:02 a.m. and I've talked so much because I really enjoy doing this stuff, but I'm a dork like that, so whatever. So I am out of here, guys. I got to get up at 4, so it's another one of those things where, balancing everything. I'll probably do an energy on a video on how to balance energies as well as part of this. But anyway, what else? So I am out here, and until I talk to you all again, stay strong, stay beautiful, and always, always, always work towards becoming a stronger you. Peace out.